some of you may remember this lovely lady. What's your name?
Chelsea Gilbert.
And you went pretty viral on
I did.
social media. Can you show us?
It was
show us
shocking.
some of it. What you did, so some of you may remember.
I put it up on YouTube at this link, but it's also on my Facebook here, and it ended up getting over 1,000 shares and over 70,000 views. Do you want to play?
And tell us why. So tell us, see how pro-vaccine you were and all that kind of stuff.
My kids were both. I have a almost 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. They've had every single shot on the day that they were scheduled to have it. I didn't delay anything, and I did ask questions because my son had really, really high fevers, 104, 105. After almost every round of his vaccines, he had these high fevers, and they told me that was normal. And if it continued past 24 hours, they told me it was a coincidence, but it kept happening. And I ended up going to the minor med after 2 rounds of shots. And they just really kind of blew me off. And so I started asking, can I space these out since he's having these reactions? And they said no. And I actually ended up changing pediatricians, and then it happened, again. But my mom had told me that she thought my brother developed asthma after his shots, and I blew her off and told her it was a coincidence. But
what does blew her off mean?
I just told her that, I don't believe you, really. I just said I thought it was in her head. But I kept seeing friends that were telling me stories of their kids having vaccine injuries, friends that I really knew and trusted, and they had before and after videos of how their child had digressed. And so I thought there's something to this, and but I didn't want to believe it because I had given my children their vaccines. I didn't want it to be true. And so I went to see the movie just to be more informed. I was not expecting to feel the way that I felt. And I cried the entire time because I realized that this could have been my babies. And I kept picturing in the movie, like, what would have happened if I saw warning signs and I kept letting it happen, and something really terrible had happened to them. So I made this video and just told people, you should just be more informed. I'm not telling you, I would never want the responsibility of telling you what to do with your child, but I want you to make the best decision with the most information that you can find. Just look into it and make sure you're doing the right thing, because I don't feel like I was, and I don't feel like I had looked into it enough to know better. And that was my fault for not being informed and just trusting. And I said that the doctors and the nurses, I believe, have our best interest at heart, but when they have faulty information, they can't fully know what they're recommending and the damage that it could cause. And so I got a ton of feedback, and some people don't want to hear it, and I'm just going to keep praying that they will listen, or something will happen that their child is protected but they are still informed. And I got a lot of messages from people all over the country saying thank you. I'm so embarrassed, but I don't tell people what happened, but this happened to me. And I thought it's such a shame that these people that have had these stories are too scared of the backlash that they can't even tell the truth of what's happened to their kid to prevent it happening to someone else. And things that really got to me after the movie, I just didn't know, should I delay vaccines? Should I not do it at all? And I was just paralyzed with fear to vaccine or not to vaccinate. And someone told me, you can always get vaccines later, but you can never take it back. And that stuck with me, and I thought, oh my word, that's so true. And something else that really resounded with me was that every single mom that's now what you consider anti-vaccine was once pro-vaccinating, and that's how they came this way. And so when I realized those things, my mindset changed. And to live in a state where we don't have the option to not give the vaccines is insane, especially because we're such a conservative state. And finding out that there's aborted cells in the vaccines, I had no idea. No one ever told me that. And I'm completely, appalled that that wasn't even disclosed, to have the option to know. And so I'm going to be doing everything I can to let the parents have the voice and have the choice, because, these are our babies that we love more than the government loves and more than even the doctors love. So we should have the ability to do what we believe is best for our children, because, if the parents aren't able to make the choices, then that's just a really scary world to live in.
So Stephanie wants you to run for office. So what happened when you went to your pediatrician?
Well, this last time I went, I told him to please go see the movie. And he's the sweetest man. I went to him since I was a little girl, but he just seemed very defensive, like I was questioning him. And I think that what medical providers need to understand is that we're not questioning their character, we're not questioning their integrity, were just questioning the information that they've received, that they're basing all their decisions on. And he said that he would watch it, but I haven't heard back yet. So I just pray that he's going to watch it and watch it with an open mind, because.
What did he say about the shots?
He said that there was a polio shot, and that back then there was a child that received polio from the vaccine, and that now because one child was affected, they redid the whole entire vaccine because one child was too many to sacrifice. So that he said that they take vaccine protocol very seriously, and if there was this epidemic, something would have been done about it. That's what he told me. Another thing, a different pediatrician told me whenever I was being asked about the flu vaccine, which now looking back, it's terrifying, but I said I didn't want to receive it. And he said, if you knew a shooter was coming into your child's school, and some kids were going to die from that being shot, would you send your child to school that day? And I said, no. And he said, that's what it's like when you don't give your child a flu vaccine.
No, that's what it's like when you do give your child a flu vaccine.
And now I know
if
that.
you knew that there was a shooter, I mean, put it the other way around, please.
Mm-hmm. And now I know. I just had no clue that there was all these, reactions that weren't reported or that were silenced, essentially. And now that I know, I just can't stop thinking about it. Since my world was turned upside down, and it was hard because I didn't want it to be true. But the more that I did research that was unbiased, the more I realized I couldn't deny it. And then I can't stop talking about it because there's people out there that were just like me, that had no clue, that just trusted and hadn't done the research, and they just don't want to believe it. And I know because I've been there, but that doesn't mean I can stop talking about it now that I know. It's like a burden on my shoulders that I feel like I have to be willing to share, even though it's uncomfortable, and that even though some people have really seriously given me some serious backlash. People told me I didn't deserve to live, that my kids should die, I should die. I mean, really horrible things. And even people and those were mostly people I didn't know personally, but some people that I did know personally have told me basically I need to stop talking about it, that, I need to think of the people who I'm affecting and stuff like that. But if somebody had known and not told me, I would find it a little bit offensive that they didn't care enough about my kids to at least say, hey, look into it. It's up to you, but why don't you do this research? Why don't you just at least investigate it so that the choice can be mine and not the doctor's?
Well, I believe that you're saving lives by talking about it. I mean, if anybody has any problems, they can come on the bus with us and check it out.
I mean, but even like the CDC, even though we know it's corrupt, but like they even report things that are horrific. And like I pulled like every vaccine insert and it's on there. Like I just didn't know. I never looked myself, but you can even see the side that they are telling you to get information from. There's information there that you're not looking at, even if you do trust the CDC. It's there. So that's something that I was like, you can't deny that. No one can deny that these are real side effects that you're willing to risk your child for the chickenpox. I mean, I'd rather my child have chickenpox.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, it's a pretty benign disease. I mean,
She had Bella had chickenpox
you
with
put me in,
Billy
like,
and
an oatmeal
Toby.
bath or
They
something.
were
I was
all
like,
in an
"What are you
oatmeal
telling me?"
bath and it was awful.
And it went away.
We just want to thank you so much
Thank you.
for the video that you did, because it helped so many, and
It's
being
really
strong.
good for me. I find that your video is the most powerful way for me to get through to my friends who are just, young also and just don't have a clue. And it's really interesting for them to hear someone who was, like you said, no recycling and stuff. I wear makeup and stuff, and that really was like eye-opening to them. Like, oh wow, you can be normal.
it's so awesome and it's so rare to have a perspective from someone who came into this as pro-vax.
They want to know before you go where they can see the link to your video.
Okay, so it's on YouTube under a Vax review from a pro-vax mom. And so it's on my Facebook, but here's the YouTube link.
And thank you so much for being so brave. Dale would be proud of you. Shame he's not here to give you a big hug, but I'll hug you from him.
Okay, thank you.